Well, good evening. I'm Jeremy from Dunedin-based band Civil War Corpse, and this evening I'm going to continue a series that I've begun. Calling it a series feels a little grandiose, but I guess that's what it is, albeit it's the beginning of the series, so maybe in another dozen videos it'll feel less grandiose. But at any rate, a series called How Songs Come to Be. And this is predicated upon the fact that I love writing songs, specifically on guitar. And yes, in case you're wondering, I am wearing this Van Halen t-shirt ironically, in the sense that Eddie Van Halen was obviously an amazing guitarist, beyond amazing. And while I've been playing guitar for many, many years now, I still often struggle to think of myself as a guitarist. I think of myself as more someone who just loves playing guitar. And I love writing songs. And if you're completely new to the very, very small corner of the universe that Civil War Corpse inhabits, then by way of context, Civil War Corpse is in the process of releasing about one a month or so, the songs, a series of songs that will at the end ultimately make up an album, and hopefully be released in a physical form. And we've released 2 songs so far, and the first song, a song called The Enemy Within, which if you're interested you can find on this channel. I did a couple of videos called How Songs Come to Be, and the first one was about how the song was written, and then the second song was about how the song was arranged as part of the recording process. So now that we've released a second song a few weeks ago called The Real Surreal, which again, if you're interested, and if you're interested in this particular video, then it would make sense to be interested in having listened to the song itself, is of course also available on this channel. It would be strange if it wasn't. So here we go. I'm going to talk about The Real Surreal and how it came to be. So almost every song that I have ever written has essentially come about by accident. You know, the way that I approach playing guitar, and that's, whether it's, if I'm playing, kind of a lead guitar part, or trying to develop one in respect of some pre-existing music, or whether I'm just playing for myself, basically I just tend to noodle around. Obviously, sometimes I'll play something that I know, or a pre-existing idea, whether it has come to fruition and become a song, or whether it's just a bit of an idea that has not yet. I noodle. I basically just move my fingers around until it starts to sound good. It's always worked for me. I don't know, I'm not somebody who hears amazing melodies or arrangements in my head and then goes, oh my gosh, I gotta get to my guitar so I can work it out. That's not what it's like for me. I basically just play around until, for whatever reason, and I'm sure, you could do many videos on the psychology of this kind of thing, I'm sure. But basically, until I find myself playing some notes or some chords in a way and in an order that moves me, I guess, that touches me emotionally in some way and makes me think, oh, that's pretty cool. And so that's exactly what happened, essentially, with The Real Surreal. I don't remember where I was. I most likely sitting on this chair. I was definitely in this room, possibly sitting in a different part of it, I don't know. But I was playing guitar one evening, and without giving it any thought at all, I played this, or at least a variation of this. I think it was pretty much this exactly. And I thought, oh, Oh, that's kind of cool. It's the particular chord is, I think, actually I can't remember what it's called. It's like it's a sort of a D suspended, albeit I've got a capo on the second fret, so it's an E suspended. It's a chord, and I remember coming across it as a teenager in a magazine, like a guitar magazine, and thinking, oh, that's kind of cool. That's a bit different, and I'm playing it. I'm tuned to drop D, so there's a nice low D there, and that works well with this chord. And I've always really liked it, but it's an odd chord. So here's more of a D major, D5 really, D major, which are they're a little more simple to understand, I guess you could say. Whereas this chord, it's more interesting. There's a lot of different things happening in there, and so I've struggled to in the past to put it into context. To employ it in any way. But yeah, so I played that little thing. I thought, oh, well, that's kind of cool. And so, just kind of played around with that. And then the first thing that became apparent was, well, if I just keep on playing that, if I treat that as a riff and just play it over and over, that's going to get really boring, like immediately. Maybe by the third time, it'll be boring. But just on its own, like if I could find some other things to go with it, to sit either side of it, maybe that could be cool. And so basically I just, as I do with these sorts of things, I just played it and just kind of muddled around until, in the hope of finding something else and that would work with it. And of course, as in while I said, I don't hear things in my head and then rush away and try to work them out. Obviously, as an idea begins to evolve, I will start to hear some things to a point. At any rate, the net result of this initial noodling was this. Sorry, I haven't played it. I was practicing it before, and I'll try that again. I'm distracting myself. Yeah, and so I liked that, and I liked the way that the delay effects that I've got set up just kind of played together, with that. And I thought, okay, well, that's a nice little thing. It could be the beginning of something. Again, if that's all it is, like if that's the whole verse, say, that's going to get a bit tired pretty quick. So again, I continued to noodle, and the net result was eventually this. You get the idea. Sorry. And so I thought, okay, that's quite cool. That's a thing. That to me feels like a verse. And I'll be upfront and say I don't remember when in the process, the lyrics came along. But at any rate, the next musical thing that happened was what became the chorus. Now, it's really easy, certainly for me, to, if you've written a little thing that you like and you think, oh, that's a verse or that's a chorus, that's sort of a contained part of the song, and it's, let's say you're playing in D, it's very easy for the next part of the song to end up being in D as well. And for whatever reason, that didn't happen. So it went like this. Oh, sorry, it goes like this. I'm not doing this well at all. I'm just, because as I'm playing it, I'm thinking about it, like, and what I'm going to say next, and so I'm screwing it up. But at any rate, the verse came to an end. You know, back. So we're back on this D. So I went to this next chord, which is, well, strictly speaking, it's an A, but relative to the capo, it's a G. And the chorus goes like this. And obviously, or maybe not obviously, but obviously for me, you know, there was a lot of experimentation that came with it. You know, I liked the G. Where does it go there? And so I noodled around and thought, so just sort of a descending progression, you know, G, E, D, C. But I didn't want. I have a vague memory of it, or at least I can imagine, after having come up with that first part, thinking, well, I don't want to just do that again, because again, it's easy to do that, to have written a little chord progression and go, oh, that's cool. Oh, well, I'll just repeat it. And obviously, sometimes that makes absolute sense, you know. But other times it doesn't. And what I try to do, without trying too hard, is to give myself space, I guess, to remind myself, hey, you don't just have to do the same thing. Also, on the other side, I don't have to make it different, but maybe there's some room, you know, to build on that first thing. And so that's why I guess the second half goes like this. It took me quite a while to work out that little. It's not really a riff, I don't think. It's not what I would call it, but that little progression with this E. I was quite chuffed with it, you know, once I'd nailed it. So at that point, I was like, oh, okay. I've got the beginnings of a song here. I've got what I think is like an intro and what I think is a verse, and I've got what definitely feels like a chorus. And if that's where it stops, it can get a bit frustrating, because you're like, well, now what? Fortunately, I think it's somewhere around there in the creative process, I started to get some lyrical ideas. You know, I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't have any you know, themes or, you know, deep angst that I was dealing with or anything like that. I was just playing it and just enjoying playing it. And if you listen to the song, and if you haven't listened to it yet, then not much of what I'm going to say now is going to make a lot of sense yet. But I think it's got quite a Pink Floyd-y kind of feel. And for the avoidance of doubt, in saying that, in no way am I drawing any comparisons between myself and the inimitable Dave Gilmour. I'm just saying, you know, I'm speaking in generalities. Remember, the ironic t-shirt. Yeah, but if you listen to the song, you know, you hear the lyrics. You know, it's not really your classic pop song. So this, you know, the vocal comes in over the verse, and it's. Hey there, are you listening? The future's here. I'm resisting. I think that might actually be the second verse, but that's okay. You know, the vibe is the same. And I remember this just kind of popping into my head and going, ooh, well, that's a little bit different. I mean, for me, very unusual. Not at all the kind of way that I would typically, vocally or lyrically approach a song. And I remember just thinking, screw it, I'm just going to run with it. Whatever. I'm a big believer in not editing your first draft. If you start to get an idea, just bloom and run with it. You can change it later. But if you start thinking about it too much in the moment, you can just completely cork the whole process. It's kind of like turning off the tap. Yeah. So so that that evolved, and I'm not going to get into the details of have a listen to the song, but basically it's sort of I went with that, and over time the lyrics and the vocals evolved. I was like, okay, this is cool. I think I know what's going on with this song. It's starting to turn into something. But as I say, I've got an intro and a verse and a chorus, and that's it. And I remember, one time coming out of playing the chorus, the and so on. I was like, that just feels good. Like, it's just two chords, but it feels good. And so, again, if you listen to the song, what you hear is after that second chorus, for the next however couple of minutes at any rate, it's basically just D and C, the odd F thrown in there just periodically, sort of to punctuate things. And I wrestled with it for a long time, thinking, it's too simple, just two chords, the same two chords over and over and over. But I ultimately realized I can't escape the fact that it just sounds good to me. and where it went, because where it goes, there's sort of this interlude, you could call it, and it's just this D and the C with the occasional F, and then that ends, and it's the same thing again, but I bring it down dynamically, and I just really liked it. And at the same time, in the Google document that I had that I was writing the lyrics in, I think I listed off. I had a section in it where I'd just written a whole lot of words that I kind of associated with each other. I can't remember why I did it. There was a very specific reason, but that eludes me now. But at any rate, they were just sitting there, and one day when I was playing, it occurred to me, what if, given that I'm writing this weird song, let's go full Bodeka on it, and let's get weird. It's sort of lyrically and musically, it kind of feels like slightly dystopian or something. So why don't we just go the whole haul? And so I started playing around with the idea of just saying, like the idea of like a quiet, almost menacing kind of voice saying these different words. And again, if you listen to the song, you'll hear it, it'll make sense far better than I could explain it to you. But again, it's still just over the... And again, I couldn't get away from the fact that however simple or weird or whatever it was, to me it just sounded great. And I thought, you know what, stuff it. I'm gonna run with it. and so further, again, listen to the song. Further on, there's a chorus, there's an outro. So the only other change, or the only other different part was, I felt like, okay, after I finished this dystopian monologue, the bridge, I really felt like there should be something else, like it was building, because you got these, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, like. So yeah, It came up, fortunately, found this little progression, you know, D, E minor, F, C. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, like it's not a, and that's the thing, like I love chords. You know, I very rarely write actual riffs, you know, like in the James Hetfield Metallica sense of the word. Usually for me, it's full chords. You know, I love. I love the fullness of it, the hugeness of it, the wildness of it. You know, as opposed to something tighter like. You know, that's cool, but other people do it better, and that kind of those kinds of riffs, or that kind of playing really connects with me emotionally when I do it. Obviously, when I listen to other people do it, I think, oh man, it's amazing. I wish I could do that. Very infrequently does that end up being the case with my own playing, and I think it's simply because, as much as I love that energy, very little of that energy is actually present in me, which is possibly why I like it when other people do it. So that was cool. I had this progression, and this, which I figured I'll do a guitar solo over that. And that's kind of it. I don't know if there's any great insights to be found in that. I suppose if there were any sort of morals to take away from that, if you will, you know, little lesson snippets. One would be, don't be afraid of simple stuff. You know, obviously there's a place for complexity or something approaching complexity, and I'm certainly not suggesting, you know, like flee from that, you know, and you know, 4 chords only or anything like that. But at this, I'm just saying, don't be scared in your own songwriting of doing something simple. Basically, if it feels good, do it. I say that strictly in respect of songwriting. As a general policy on life, that, you know, things can go wrong. And another one would be, well, I guess coupled with that, don't be afraid of, like, if you get an idea that's unusual, pursue it. You know, what's the worst that can happen, you know? Maybe you won't like the end result. Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, this is songwriting, you know, we're not testing nuclear weapons. You know, no one's going to die. So, you know, run with it. Take it as far as you can go. Well, there was another thing I was going to say, and it just came back to me, and then I forgot it. But yeah, just enjoy whatever it is that you find yourself playing. Yeah, I mean, that's right, that's what it was. Once I'd written the song, I was like, oh, yay, I'm so stoked. But prior to recording the song, I went back and forth on it a lot. Probably for about a year, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a great song. Oh, nah, it's not. It's weird. It's not that great at all. And then a few months later, I come back and go, oh yeah, that is actually a pretty cool song. And then a few weeks later, oh, nah. Fortunately, I decided, you know, in the end, you know, we decided to run with it, and it turned into one of my favorite songs on the record. I mean, I really love all of the songs that we have done for this record, but I'm particularly chuffed about this one. It's got a guitar solo that I love and a couple of other things, which I'm going to talk about in the next video that I do. Otherwise, this would just get too long. I don't know if there's a lesson to be found in that. I suppose if there is one, it's just because you like a song doesn't mean it's good. And just because you find yourself feeling that you don't like it doesn't mean it's bad. You know, don't be afraid to go back to old ideas and old songs that maybe you thought weren't so good. And that's one of the great values of recording a demo. Even like the roughest thing, just get it recorded, because 6 months from now, you may feel very differently about it. It can almost be a case of you wrote the song on the wrong day or at the wrong time of the year, and it's there, but maybe later you'll come back to it and go, man, that's actually really great. Why did I ever think this wasn't any good? So there you go, for what it's worth, how songs come to be. As I say, I'm Jeremy, and maybe another week or so, in another week or so, I will definitely do a follow-up to this, where I'll talk about how the song was arranged, how we recorded it. Not specifically the mechanics of the recording, but as such. But yeah, how we took it from being a one guitar song with some lyrics to what it is now, what you can listen to, what I recommend you go and listen to. So on that note, have a good night.